welcome, folks. We got a bunch of guys here, diehard Met fans, and honestly, we're just here, starting a new podcast, and we're just here to say some things about the Mets. All lifelong fans just want to get our voices, our opinions out. I'm CJ Owens. Been a Mets fan since as long as I can remember. Bleed that blue and orange, and I just want to throw it off to one of my co-hosts, Brian. Here you go, Cunny.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? I'm Brian. You'll hear these guys call me Cunny a lot. I'm a Long Island Met fan. Been loving the team for a long time. Travel with the 7 line. We're at the big playoff games back in 2015. 2016, I was at the wild card game with these guys. And yeah, we're looking forward to giving you guys our Met takes, throwing out some content. And I'll pass it to our other co-host, Greg Walsh.
What's up, boys? This is Greg, diehard Mets fan. Just here to talk the Mets, educate the game a little bit, show you guys what's good. But here, we're all looking for a chip in 2021 and beyond with the new era. Uncle Stevie, let's get it going. Talk some Mets, boys.
Yeah, I think that was very well said by my men right there. We're all happy to start this thing up. And, yeah, like Cunny alluded to, he did say playoff games, so we'll give you guys a bunch of our experiences, been to a bunch of games. Don't act like we know it all, because we definitely don't. But yeah, I just want to talk about the Mets a little bit, get our feelings out there. We know there's a lot of Met fans in this tri-state area that just want to be, have something to listen to other than that mainstream stuff you got on. So we're just going to talk a little Mets, anything that has to do with the Mets whatsoever. So we're not going to shy away from any topics. And I think I'll just throw it back to my men if either of them want to say something about it before we get going, kind of.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. Why don't we just get going and talk about this offseason? I think the Mets are fucking ready. I'm just going to say it. I think they're a different team than 2020, and they're already looking good. And I think new regime in line, like I said earlier, we got a lot of good things going. And I think the NL East could be back in New York.
Yeah, the first thing we got to go to is definitely Steve Cohen buying the team. I mean, that just creates the new energy. This fan base is back. Queens baseball is back. Steve Cohen came in, bought the team for $2.4 billion. And, he's got that rumor to have deep pockets. We saw a little bit of it this offseason. He went after guys. But I think in the end, all Mets fans should be happy. What do you think, CJ?
We've waited a long time for this. The Wilpons, the coupons, as I like to refer to them. They were sorry. Regime. The reign on the team was definitely a reign of terror. Nobody enjoyed that, myself included. And I remember, shout out to my boy Sean at the Jets Way podcast. I remember the day they officially made the Steve Cohen buying of the team official, and we were going bananas, man. We were just so happy. So, yeah, I'm ecstatic about that. Greg, I'm excited to hear what you have to say about that as well.
Coupons, absolutely love that name. I'm using that from now on. That's fucking awesome. They had to go. Like I said, new management, it just set a different tone. Not even just like for us to spend money, but just like it shows the players that you're here to like make moves. You want to win. We're ready to do like what they're already. Like I think we got a lot of their guys entering the prime of their career right now. Why mess around? Like 19, we were kind of just young. We didn't really have a ton, but we made some noise in the second half of that year, and there was a possibility. 2020 obviously didn't go our way with a lot of things, no pitching. But when you tell the players you got someone who's willing to pay you if you're going to be that guy and they want to win championships, like he said, I think that inspires a lot of ball players, and I think they got something going.
Yeah, I mean, you got to even look back to the Steve Cohen when he bought the team, how Mets-like it was when he bought it, right? When we had to put up with the A-Rod and J-Lo rumors, when Mayor de Blasio stepped in. I mean, nothing about that purchase could have been more Mets. And I'm just glad it finally got done. I think better days are ahead, as we all agreed. Yeah, let's start diving into his first offseason. So I think the big move also is Sandy Alderson coming back in the Mets front office, holding it down. So yeah, Greg, you're a big Sandy fan. What do you got to say about Sandy?
Listen, I was a big Sandy guy because I think he was instrumental, as everyone knows, in the 2015 run that we had. Like, the Mets had no business being where they were in 2015. Some of the lineups they were putting out there, but they were just so good with that pitching, and they just were timely and he made key moves there that were so slept on. Guys we love, like Uribe and Kelly Johnson. Like, Sandy was big with all that. And having him back calling the shots, like, you can tell he's making moves up there, and he's not messing around this winter.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think Sandy. I'm glad to have him back. He's kind of, he's the old folk around. He's been around the game for a while, so he's definitely got his knowledge. The thing that I'm honestly the happiest about, I think, is the way that they've really put the money into the scouting and the development of the players now. I think that's a big thing. Getting those players in your farm system early, developing them on the cheap. I think that's the way the game's going, especially with arbitration and stuff like that now. Everybody wants to get that contract, that dude before you have to pay him. So I think that's a huge thing. Everybody knows. Like we look back at the Klenic trade, everybody, he's worth what now? And we traded him for Edwin Diaz and Robinson Cano. So I'm not gonna get ahead of ourselves, but yeah. So I think that Sandy is definitely. I'm glad to have him back, and I think he's going to do good things. And I feel like one of the best things that he did already, he brought in Lindor. So I feel like we kind of segue to that, the Lindor and Carrasco trade. What do you think about that, Clenny?
I mean, I remember that day too, like how you were just talking about CJ. I was at work actually when I found it out, and just finding out that your team traded for Francisco Lindor is just it changes the franchise. I mean, this is a franchise that's been looking for a player like that since Wright. I mean, now they got him. He's going to be in the core of their lineup, hopefully, if he gets extended for years to come. We all seen what he's capable of in the past. He steps up in the big moments. He's a leader. He's a great player. He's got a great glove, great bat. He can run. I mean, there's really not much to dislike about that. I mean, even the value that they gave up. I mean, I do like Jimenez, but Rosario, we had high expectations for him, but it didn't work out. Two prospects in Green and Wolf, but I'd take that for Francisco Lindor any day, plus Carlos Carrasco. So I think it was just a win-win for the Mets. And he's going to bring back this team, man. I mean, Pete, he started this trend. Now we have Lindor. He's just going to keep it going, the ball rolling. The Mets are going to be back.
Brady, what you got for us, brother?
Yeah, dude. You guys know, as middle infielder myself, getting a guy like Lindor onto the team, I've always been saying, I like Rosario. I wasn't big on him. I never thought he had that clutch gene, so I was never too big on him. Jimenez, I saw a lot of promise with. Thought he'd be a good ball player, but like Honey said, when you can mix two guys into one guy that is a top 5 player in the game, in my opinion, MVP candidate every year, that changes ball club, new level. Like, this is a new attitude. We got that guy now. Like, we already have ball players that are all-star caliber guys, but we don't have that MVP caliber guy that in the moment, when you get to September, October, you got to win those games. That guy that's going to hit that big hit, that's Lindor. So, I mean, they got it.
I agree. I'm gonna play I'm gonna be that guy, as you said, and I'm gonna play the little devil's advocate here. Jimenez started off playing well, definitely with the Mets, showed promise. I thought he was electric when he played. Rosario, I thought he definitely. I love the hype. I was all in on the hype for Rosario, but obviously hasn't lived up to it. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate here. What do you think? I mean, some people. I mean, they're probably in the few, but some people definitely felt like Jimenez and Rosario is a big haul for a team for Lindor, who's not even signed next year. So I mean that's a big thing as well. I mean I believe that we'll get that signing done. But what do you guys have to say about any of that, like that criticism as far as that, giving up your next 2 shortstops if you can't lock this guy up?
Yeah, I mean, Rosario.
Right now. Sorry, Connie, you go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Greg, but I was going to say, I've even said to Greg multiple times, I was a big Rosario guy. I thought the 2019 year he had with the bat, especially in that second half, I thought we started to see him burst onto the scene. I thought he was gonna have a much better year last year. I understand with the shortened season, but the thing about him was the glove with me. I mean, his glove was just brutal out there at times, and I think
for a guy that was supposed to come up as a defensive specialist, like his bat was supposed to be a second. It was going to be his glove.
Yeah, like it's interesting when you read like the sports science stuff about it, like how like his depth where he played in the field, like compared to Lindor, and like how that factors into the range factor and stuff like that. It just seems like solidifying the defense up the middle and getting a superstar shortstop. But like you said, Slim, they have to extend Lindor, then the trade's worth it.
Brady, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, like Honey said, like one of the biggest takeaways I got was that you got to be strong up the middle, and that's what I think the Mets attacked this year. They got Lindor at short. You got a catcher like McCann, who's a Gold Glove caliber guy back there, and he's no slouch with bat. I think he was an All-Star in either 18 or 19. Guys are still a good hitter. Like, that's strong up the middle. Second base, you got McNeil back at his spot. He's going to exceed. Guy's a great fielder. unfortunately, we don't have a center fielder. I don't want to get into that discussion right now. We'll save that for another day. But we got 3 out of the 4 up the middle, so I'm liking what I'm seeing there.
Yeah, I think that was very well said. And then back to what you said, Connie, definitely extending Lindor. I think that should be priority one. I think Anthony DiComo came out and said today that the Mets are prioritizing that over Conforto. They're going to do Lindor first and try and do Lindor first and then move on to Conforto. Oh, what do you feel about that, Greg? Do you think that Conforto should feel slighted at all? I mean, he's been with the Mets longer. He's our homegrown guy. I mean, I feel like the way DiComo put it, I felt like that kind of was a slight to Conforto. What do you think about that?
Listen, I'm in the same boat as you are right there. I don't think it was a slight at Conforto. In my opinion, I've been saying for weeks I would rather Conforto get his than Lindor because everything you just said, he's been our guy. He came up as a rookie, 15. Look at what he's done. He's only done great things since and gotten better. That's the guy. He's, in my opinion, like the voice of the clubhouse. He's not a high voice guy you would expect, but I think he's a big leader for them, and I think he's the guy you got to lock up. I mean, yeah, everything I just said about Lindor, he's the real deal, but you got to pay your dues to what's right, and then you can get Lindor. And listen, if we got the money bag Uncle Stevie at the helm, I'm hoping we're going to be spending that cash for the guys that are, our best 2, 3, 4 hitters we can ask for.
Yeah, to go off that, I can see why Conforto could feel slighted by that, but I think you have to lock up Lindor. But also, if you look at the business side of it, maybe it could make more sense to lock up Conforto before throwing, let's say, a blank check at Lindor. If you could get him maybe at a lower yearly salary before you give Lindor, say, $30 million a year, because that's very likely. But I think Conforto is a pro's pro. I don't think he's going to let it really bother him that much. I mean, my worry with Conforto is really Scott Boras.
And I was just going to bring that up. Like you said, he's a homegrown guy, but I don't think Scott Boras is going to let him take that discount. I mean, I know it's been reported that he's told Scott Boras that he wants to play here. But yeah, I just don't think Scott Boras is going to let his guy take pennies on the dollar. Not that I think that's what he's going to get. But I just don't think that's something that Scott Boras is about. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword, because you can't really tackle both guys at once. There's only so many guys in that front office that you trust conducting those negotiations. So you can't really send out Joe Schmo to negotiate with Scott Boras when you got Sandy negotiating with Lindor's agent. So I think that's it's just kind of the way it is. Somebody has to come first. Lindor, I guess that's a prime position at shortstop, and we just traded for him, so I can see why they want to prioritize that. But yeah, I just feel like it was like Greg made a good point, not a slight, but it's just something that I guess had to happen because you can't do them both at once. But not to get too much into that, hopefully we have them here both for a long time in that blue and orange. I guess we want to go to a more somber note, that Porter and Callaway news. That's definitely something that there's no place in that for the game. It's sad that it wasn't realized beforehand. Just how do these guys get through all these screenings and background checks to get these big jobs as a manager and a GM for the New York Mets, one of the biggest franchises in the sport. And it's mind-blowing.
Unfortunately, it's not even just the Mets because it's happening across the league. These guys had these instances in other cities and other teams, and it sucks that it's either, who knows if it's being swept under the rug, but I mean, I like to think that it's just, they need a better system in place, and, it'll get figured out, I hope. I hate that it keeps happening to the Mets, man. It's a bad look for the brand, and I think, like I said, they're bringing in new people, and hopefully they find the right people.
Yeah, it's definitely a disaster. Like CJ was saying, it's absolutely terrible. There's no place in the game for it. And like he mentioned, people knew about it and just kind of let it be and swept it under the rug, which is even worse. But, it just sucks. There's nothing about it that's good for the game. But I think, like Greg was saying, with the new brand, the new people in the building, hopefully the Mets do dig a little deeper into that things and they carry themselves with a little more honor and integrity and try to represent our city better.
Speaking of new people in the building, why don't we dive into some of the off-season moves? Let's get some of the names thrown out here because, like I was saying, I think we got almost a different roster than 2020, and I am all for it because 2020, it kind of was good that we didn't have a great year. It was a throwaway year. We turned it over. Everyone's healthy, and now we got a lot of new guys who are going to be bringing a lot to the table. Who we got? Connie, I know you were looking at some names earlier.
Yeah, so I was looking at some names. The Mets, the free agency was interesting for the infield. Let's just start there. They brought in McCann at catcher. They brought in Villar, Jose Martinez, Jose Peraza. Not a lot of big moves, but I thought McCann, that was their first move. That was what put them onto the scene this offseason. They signed McCann, and, it's a backstop for a couple of years. And McCann's got the glove. I mean, I'm excited to hear what you guys think of him. I think he's a good player.
Yeah, I think that James McCann is definitely a good player. I think the Mets went about that negotiation the best they could. Honestly, there was rumblings that JT Realmuto didn't want to play in New York. If those were true or not, the Mets didn't want to stick around for that. I mean, I don't even think that's one of the reasons. I mean, James McCann, they got him for a good price. I mean, 4 years. That kind of is kind of steep in my opinion, but that I guess will lead us right into Francisco Alvarez. So that's something to look forward to. He's a stud, but
they got a lot of good things to say about him down there in the farm system.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to be a stud. But as far as that McCann signing, the Mets couldn't get it if they were going to. If McCann wanted to sign early, and that was his intention, and he was by far the second best catcher on the market. If he signed and it was just Realmuto left on the market, the Realmuto could have bled the Mets dry, had no intention of going there, and went back to the Phillies, and the Mets would have been stuck with Joe Blow as their catcher for this season. So I think that going out and being preemptive and getting James McCann was definitely a good signing. Greg, I know that you like him, so what do you guys say?
I'm a fan of him, but hey, don't sleep on my guy Tomas Nido. He's a nice backup backstop, all right? Guy will get you a little big dinger when you need it on and off there, right? But McCann, hey, listen, that's what we need. We need a guy who can. I mean, catchers are thin nowadays, so all I'm really asking for is a guy who's going to command the staff, really help and improve them, and block some balls, tag a guy out in the bottom of the ninth on a play that decides the game. We need a guy like that. We haven't really had that the last couple of years, so it's going to be nice.
Yeah, you can't knock the McCann signing either because at the time when they signed him, the Mets had intentions of going after a Trevor Bauer, a George Springer. So they were opposed to giving that big contract to JT from the start.
Much money, I was okay with it. It was a good signing.
Yeah, like CJ said, I'm not.
We might as well get McCann. He was the next best option in my opinion.
Yeah, not crazy about 4 years, like CJ said, but is what it is. He's a good player. I mean, this guy has been Gold Glove, right? He's been in the Gold Glove finalists. Has he been a Gold Glove?
I don't think he won it, but I know he's been nominated.
No, but he's been nominated for the finalists. I know that. And like Greg said, he was definitely an all-star. I mean, like Greg said, catchers are slim. I think that was a good get.
He's definitely going to be an upgrade over the Buffalo Wilson. I mean, he gave us some great times, but he just simply wasn't cutting it.
He just needs the DH. I believe in him. He'll have a good year in Detroit. He's not a terrible hitter. He just can't be, catching 80 games. I don't even think he can do 80 anymore.
MLB The Show's gone with the 0 speed. So
yeah, they violated him.
Wilson's waning athleticism is basically nothing. But yeah, I think moving into the other signings, I think that the Mets did have a pretty good offseason. I think that Lindor trade was great.
I love the outfield moves, man. I've always been a big Pilar guy. I was saying in the beginning of the offseason I wanted him. We got Almora first, who was, I didn't mind. I didn't hate it. We didn't have to spend for Jackie Bradley, so I was okay with that, even though he didn't get a ton, really. But Pilar, man, his defense is, getting a little worse. He's getting older, but he's showing a lot more with the bat, and I think he's just a veteran guy. He's played with a couple guys on the team. I know Stroh, maybe even Loop, I think. Pilar's a guy. He's been around. He wants to win some serious baseball.
Yeah, especially with Brandon Nimmo in the outfield. I like Nimmo. I think he's a good player, but especially against the lefties, he's going to have to come out, and that's a great opportunity for guys like Almora, Pilar to get in there. If we had a DH this year, which is, don't even get me started about that. That's the most ridiculous thing. But we don't, so we won't be seeing them every day, I don't think. But I think they'll be productive off our bench for sure.
Yeah, I think that's I'm kind of left wanting more from those outfield moves. I know that we missed out on George Springer. I wasn't crazy about giving him that money, that long of a contract, so that's not that
big contract.
Yeah. So that's not really that big of a deal. Jackie Bradley definitely went for less than we thought he would. So I think that's something that we could have waited. But I think that makes our lineup too left-hand heavy. So I wasn't really crazy about that either. I think our options were slim in the outfield in general. So I think they did an all right job there. Like I said, it leaves something to be desired. But also I think in the bullpen they kind of left something to be desired as well, especially after missing out.
A lot of good guys were available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially missing Bauer. It showed that they were going to spend money and go over the luxury tax, and then all those relievers went off the board flying, and then they were left with basically nothing there. So I feel like that kind of left something to be desired as well. What do you feel about that, Connie?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, if you look back in the Mets all season, if they whiffed on Springer, Bauer, I wouldn't say whiffed necessarily, maybe on Bauer, but not Springer, JT. But if they knew they would have had that cash laying around, I do feel like a guy that would have been honestly great for the Mets is Liam Hendricks. He would have been great for any team, but especially the New York Mets, man, with the team that's just kind of on the cusp of being contenders, I say you need that lockdown guy in the bullpen. And Liam Hendricks, he's proven to be that guy. I mean, I have faith in Diaz, but he's not Liam Hendricks right now. I think that really could have solidified the Mets offseason if you look back at it, but they were going after other guys. But I'm with you, CJ. I wasn't thrilled with the bullpen this offseason, and they brought in a bunch of veterans. I think they could do a good job. I think the best one was obviously Trevor May. But, Greg, what do you think?
I mean, I was just going to say that. I feel like a lot of people are kind of forgetting that we got Trevor May really early in this offseason. Like, he was just after, or if not before, James McCann. And he's no slouch as a reliever, man. He's throwing absolute fuzz up near 100. He's pretty good still. So I loved that signing. I do agree with you guys that I do think they slowed down and they didn't really attack it as much as they could have. Hendricks is a guy I think is top 3 in the game right now. Going to love him in Chicago, though. I like what the White Sox got going on. Very similar to the Mets, in my opinion. That young team, not a lot of experience, and they're going to get the pitching now. They went after, they got a strong bullpen. Mets bullpen concerns me a little, but what I kind of like they did is they got all those starting pitchers. I mean, like guys like Yamamoto, Walker, Lucchesi. I mean, they're not A, B grade guys, but they can pitch you in 162 games and bridge gaps, eat up innings. They could use them in a long relief role. Who knows if one of them is going to find the stuff and win a starting spot. So who knows? I've been hearing a lot of rumors that people are going to be throwing maybe 6 days rotations, but I don't imagine us doing that with DeGrom. But they might be very important in the Mets bullpen and just eating up innings until a guy, especially like Lugo, comes back. Someone could, who knows, turn into like that middle relief Lugo role.
Those are points, like you guys said, the bullpen. I think we were all kind of in agreement there. Greg brought up some good points about the starters. I definitely liked how they brought in some depth there. That definitely was something lacking last year. That's something that Sandy addressed. I think that was good. He kind of took that pragmatic approach this offseason. Trevor May is no slouch, absolutely. The man's on Twitch too. Good for him. He'll especially up in Fortnite. Watch out. But
he's on a good podcast too with Chris Rose that's starting up. I heard he's going to be doing some guest appearances. Trevor May, good man.
Good. I'm glad to hear him on the podcast. But hopefully he's got enough time to work out and pitch and shutout innings. Because if he's not doing that, then he'll be hearing it from me. But yeah, I think Taijuan Walker was a good signing too. I felt like honestly he kind of was one of the dudes I was less high on. Kind of like if we were going to go that route and for that 5th starter, I kind of felt like Kluber or a guy like Paxton who's shown like more like the higher ceiling. Not saying that I think Walker
they've done it before.
Yeah, but absolutely proven. The guys that are proven studs. I think Walker definitely had a good year last year, but how much of that could be a fluke and stuff? I think that he will pitch well, hopefully. But what do you guys feel about that? I feel like they kind of almost sell themselves short on that 5th starter spot too. What do you think, Greg?
I mean, like I said, I think one of those guys is going to win that spot. I mean, I think Peterson's also definitely going to show us some stuff. He gave us some signs in 2020. He'll be that 4th spot. You need that lefty in there, you know? That's why if Peterson wasn't going to be the guy, I think they brought in Lucchesi, replace Matz, have that extra lefty arm. But I think it'll be Walker too. Was I excited it was him? Not really. But listen, the guy's showing some signs. He's got the size. He's got some stuff. Like, I'm excited to see from him. I respect him taking the double 9s instead of the double gooses, paying homage to our guy, Mr. Met. So, I mean, he's a good man.
I'm not saying that he definitely a lock for that rotation. I just want to hear what you got to think about that, Connie. Any thoughts on that?
For the Mets, for that last starting rotation spot, I do think it'll be Taijuan Walker. I think he's honestly earned it. Throughout his career, he's been fairly good. I mean, I'm excited to see what he could do. Obviously, you have your injury concerns, but I do like Jordan Yamamoto. I think Yamamoto showed a little bit of flashes, and I think getting to learn behind like a DeGrom, Syndergaard, or Stroman, guys like that, that's guys that he didn't have in Miami. I mean, who is he watching and learning from in Miami that's like a bona fide starter? I think that's really going to help him out. But like I said, I mean, we're just offering our takes. We don't know much about it. Hopefully Taijuan Walker steps up and takes that role because that's who I think will get first shot. But I think another thing in the Mets rotation that everyone's got to remember that Stroman signed a $19 million deal. That was a big re-sign for the Mets. If you look at this rotation without Stroman in it, that could have been a pretty big disaster for the Mets. I think that was definitely good that they locked him up. Just 1 year, you're not tied into it. Then you could try, see how the budget works out, but we'll see where it goes from there.
Completely agree with you there, Connie. I'm a big Stroman fan. I know we all are as Long Island guys. I was excited when we got him last year. Listen, he might not have given us the wins and what we wanted, but sorry, in 19, not last year. But I think this year he's come back with a mission, and he's got a lot to prove. He's on that 1 year deal, so he's going to be pitching his heart out and trying to make his money. I would be willing to give it to him next year if he does it this year. So Stroman, listen, my guy CC, I'm a big CC Sabathia fan. I heard him say last week he thinks he's a dark horse Cy Young candidate. So when I hear somebody say that about a pitcher not named Jacob deGrom on the Mets, I'm excited. And Syndergaard at full strength, he's got that talent too. But when we get that man back, I think if he's healthy, forget about it.
I like Stroman. I think he's definitely a good pitcher. I'd like to see him get more back to maybe that little ground ball. I know he's the more ground balls, just trying to get those instead of the strikeouts kind of more per se. I'm going gunning for those strikeouts. I think he's at his best when he's just pounding that sinker and really getting those ground balls. And yeah, Connie, I think that, like you said, I think Walker definitely will be in that rotation. But right now, he's kind of slotted for that 4. I feel like he's that guaranteed 4 spot, and then that 5th spot is either we got David Peterson, Lucchesi, or Yamamoto. Really, I feel like. I feel like David Peterson is gonna not get it just because they're concerned about his innings. He only threw 49 innings last year, so I feel like they might keep him at the alternate site for a while and just keep his inning cap down for a while. So I think Lucchesi probably will get that last spot. I know he hasn't really thrown in games yet. But I feel like, yeah, like you guys said, get that lefty in there. I feel like Lucchesi's going to grab that 5th spot.
Yeah, that's a good point, CJ, about the innings cap for Peterson. I would love to see Peterson in there when I was explaining mine. I just want Peterson in my rotation. Like if I had my ideal starting 5 right now, I think Peterson and Taijuan Walker would be in the back end of that. But you bring up a great point. I'm definitely not opposed to letting a guy like Lucchesi come in as a 5th guy. Let him show us what he could do. Let Peterson stay at the alternate site, get his work in, and then he could come around come June, July. Or probably earlier than that, maybe even late May.
You can't forget about we got a guy like Carrasco in that deal. We get him with Lindor. It just felt like a throw-in almost. We traded 2 guys, in prospects, but, we got a good return, and he's going to be good depth in that rotation. So I'm excited. He's still got a lot left in the tank, in my opinion, even though he's battling some injuries recently. But listen, that staff, I think, is going to get us through 162, like I was saying earlier, with those extra guys to fill games. And just it's better than what we got last year with Porcello and Waka, and we really only got them. They didn't do too much for us, unfortunately. So we got a lot more depth, at least, in the staff that I believe in until guys like Thor can get back and Lugo and whatever role we want to use him.
I think he'll be a big piece this year, hopefully. And it's interesting to see what will go on with him, and because he's a free agent at the end of the year. So is Syndergaard. I know that you guys live with that as well. Want to bring want to bring Stroman back. I think Syndergaard definitely takes priority over that. But Syndergaard's definitely going to get paid wherever he goes. So that's definitely something that we have to consider as well. But I think we've definitely done a good job of kind of dissecting what the team looks like. So let's kind of go into position battles a little bit. I think a third base is definitely a position that has come into question. Sandy didn't give him the biggest vote of confidence. I know he was looking at Chris Bryant rumors. I know Arenado went to the Cardinals. That was another guy that was rumored for a while. So, yeah, JD hasn't looked great at third base so far. He's made a couple errors. It didn't really hit that great last season. So that's definitely in question there, what kind of contribution we'll get from JD. So I'm interested. I know you got a lot to say about that, Connie. I want to hear what you got to say.
Yeah, third base I think is definitely – I wouldn't necessarily call it a concern for the Mets yet, but I don't think J.D. Davis is what all Mets fans envision him to be. I think he's a good hitter, but I don't think he could play third base all that well. I hope he proves me wrong because I really like J.D. as a member of the Mets. But even when you try to move around J.D., a guy like McNeil, he's shown that he struggled at third base as compared to second base. So when you're trying to move guys around to accommodate that third base role in your infield, it kind of weakens your infield as a whole. So I think the Mets are definitely in trouble there. I wish they could have maybe made a move, but I'll ride with JD to start. I'll give him a fair chance, and if he can't hold it down at 3B with the glove, then I think the Mets gotta look elsewhere. Maybe look at the bench. You got guys like Villar who can move around the infield. Um, but yeah, Greg, what do you think?
I'm a big JD Davis fan. I think he excels well in that like utility man off the roll off the bench. Like he's gonna get a game every now and then, or he'll play a couple times when a guy's injured. Third base, left field, plug him in wherever you need him. Listen, when you get a guy like Lindor, you got to give up assets. You know, we gave up two infielders who were probably going to start. Now it puts a guy like JD in a starting role. It's an opportunity cost to what you're going to have to give up for Lindor. So I'm okay with it. Not happy with him defensively. I know none of us are too crazy about him there since 2019 at third. He's not really that great anywhere in the field, but the guy can hit. I know he had a little bit of a down year last year. He hit 307 in 2019 though, so who knows? Back over 162, playing at an everyday pace. Who knows? He could and hitting 7, 8 wherever he's going to hit right now. I think he's going to do real well down there. But Connie said, even if he's not, we got guys who can plug it in there. McNeil's not as great at third, I will say, even though I think he's great at 2B and in the corners. But third base, he needs a little more work at. But listen, he's playing his fourth position. And then we'd have a guy like who at second? VR. I'm a big fan of him. He was a good signing. He's a guy who has played good in the last couple of years wherever he goes, and he's going to play some good ball. I think he's a key infielder for this team, kind of going into that JD role that we've had in the last 2 years. So even if JD doesn't give us what we want, I think someone's going to plug in. We got the depth this year, even with position players. So I think Almora can play a little 2B. So we got options. I have faith at JD, but it's his spot to lose, in my opinion.
I think that JD is definitely his job to lose, and we need him to perform well. Because if he doesn't perform well, like you said, we definitely made a lot of good depth signings. I think that was definitely a high point in the offseason. Definitely added some depth, especially in that infield. Just backup dudes, Amora, VR. That's definitely all good guys. I think that definitely add depth to the squad. But if JD doesn't perform, then that pushes one of those guys into a starting role. And that's something that I think those guys are all better suited off like the utility, off the bench and kind of like limited opportunities. So I think that a lot does ride on JD and what he does this year. Because like I said, if he doesn't perform well, then that puts one of those guys on the spot. And I'm not really looking forward to that. I'd rather JD really just grab the job by the horns and run with it. But that's yet to be seen. So we'll see. Connie, you got anything else to add on that, or should we hop in?
Yeah, one thing.
Jump in on one thing though, real quick. I heard you stutter on it. It's VR and Pilar. I heard our guys Gary, Keith, and Ron going after it in the spring training game. They were very. Keith was having trouble with it. Gary had to clean it up for him. It's VR and Pilar. All right, so just don't be getting that one wrong.
I was hoping that was going to slide through. I know my boys spoke with that yesterday on the show. Keith definitely was struggling with it. So I just senior moment, like my boy Keith. We all know Keith is prone to those every once in a while, to say the least. So I didn't mean to interject. Connie, go ahead, brother.
I was just going to say about JD Davis, one thing he's going to be really important for with the Mets is JD can hit the lefty. And like CJ mentioned earlier in the pod, the Mets are they're left-handed hitter stacked. So I think they're going to need JD Davis, especially on days when they're facing a lefty, to step up. And he's probably going to hit in the middle of the order against the lefty. I mean, when I look at it. Yeah, so it's like he's at the same time, he's almost in a role where he's got to still run away with it, but he's almost in a pivotal role against the lefty. It kind of goes like back and forth. We just got to see it with the glove, man. I hope it pays off because I like JD because he embraces the Mets. I remember in 2019 and that run in August, he was making headlines. He was supporting the Mets. He was repping it. I mean, he was awesome to watch. He was fun.
That clutch gene. He's got some, late inning magic. He's a big time guy in those spots.
Yeah, I think those are all good points, especially JD being vital against the lefties. That is huge. That's something that can be overlooked, especially because like you said, I alluded to it, our lineup is definitely left-hand dominant at times. That could run into an issue. So JD definitely will be a big factor there. Lindor hits better from the right side, so I think that is something that definitely helps as well with the lefties. Hopefully Pete rebounds and has a good year. I mean, we say rebound, but he finished with only 2 guys had more home runs than him.
Yeah, wasn't he like third in the NL or something?
Yeah, that average was down, but I don't think he'll ever be that high average guy. But definitely we hope for more production from the plate this year from Pete outside of the home runs. Connie, anything about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Pete Alonso, it's his second year in the bigs. You expected him to maybe not come out and put up the same numbers. I mean, if you're expecting the same numbers, that's just ridiculous. I mean, the rookie season he had was unreal. But I think Pete Alonso still had the power numbers. And I also feel like if that season was a normal season, man, he would have found a stride and you would have saw his average climb up a little bit. And he was already on pace for the homers. I mean, I think Pete's taking all of that noise. You saw even like he deactivated his social media accounts. I think he's taking all this noise a little personal, and I think he's going to come out with an edge. You've already seen it in spring training a little bit. He's already got some, he's hitting the balls hard and he's hitting for extra bases early on, which is great. So I'm excited for Pete.
It's such an encouraging sign to see him go oppo to right center with that home run the other day. Like, that's what we need back from Pete. He eats to the right center. That's where his power is the most. So that's what's just scary about him as a hitter. I mean, listen, we don't need him to hit 50 plus every year. If he does it, it's incredible. I'll take it. Don't get me wrong. But if he hits 25, 30 every year and he gets those, more consistent batting average numbers up, more ribbies, that's what we need Pete to be. And like Cunny said, I think he tried to do a little too much last year after the monster rookie year. But Pete's a streaky guy. We saw it even in 19 in his rookie of the year in the 53. Like, he was really hot, and then he had some cold stretches. But he finds it again. 162, different season. I believe in Pete. I think he'll come back. The best part about it is he's got protection in this lineup for once, I mean, not for once. He's in his third year. But Pete's got a lot of protection this year that he didn't have really last year with a guy like Lindor in front of him. Conforto's hitting either in front of him or behind him. And Dom Smith, and the list goes on right around him. Pete's going to get his pitches to hit. He's going to hit them.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely some encouraging signs, like you guys said, over that 162. Hopefully he would have played better. The last week of the season, I'm pretty sure he went yard 4 or 5 times the Polar Bear did. So he definitely got his home run count up then. He went yard multiple times that last week. So that was definitely a good sign, like you said, driving the ball to right center. That just that first home run he hit against the Marlins, his first career home run. That's that same right center field, just laser beam that he hit. So that's
home run derby. He was hitting everything to right center.
Did you guys hear?
He beat out Vladdy and all the boys. He was shooting right center the whole night.
Did you hear what he said? No, he said that he wants 130 steaks. I mean, this guy is he's a savage. He's out of his mind. He's ready to go.
I love 130 stay. If he can do that, sign me up. I'll get the jersey signed. Pay whatever you want for it.
100%.
All right, so I think what we wanted to get into next, I think we talked about a lot of good things, especially in our inaugural episode. We're excited to get out here and just talk a little bit. I feel like that could definitely be seen by us. We're just excited to speak. We've been rambling on a little bit, so we kind of just want to wrap it up here. We'll go into our 3 guys that we're most excited for to see for this season. So I guess that I'll start it off. I think the one guy I think this one might be a surprise, might not be a household name, but I'm excited to see Sam McWilliams. I think that he threw a right in his first appearance with the Mets. Came over from the Rays. They signed him to a major league deal, but I believe he does have that minor league option. So even if he doesn't make the team, they'll have him back down in AAA. But any guy that comes from the Rays, a pitcher, you gotta just have your ears up and eyes wide for, because those dudes usually come out and show up. The Rays do real good things with pitchers, and so I'm excited to see him. His spin rate is very high. He's one of those guys that it's kind of that new generation of pitcher, very analytical. So I'm very excited to see him. And then I guess I'll let somebody else throw it to one of their other guys. I won't ramble on for too long. I'll get a little spice in it. So I'll let Greg go with his next one.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think this is going to be an obvious one, but I'm going to go with Lindor. Just hits me in the heart. He's been one of my guys coming up through the systems forever. I've slightly, I'd say, become an Indians fan because of him, but now Rosario, Jimenez, they can, they can do what we dealt with. Lindor is going to have a top year. I'm excited. He's going to bring us to the promised land.
Big words from Greg, especially a former middle infielder himself. We don't really like to hear that Indians talk. I don't know what that is. Definitely.
Listen, him and J-Ram was one of the most lethal left sides I'd see in the last couple of years. I loved watching those two guys. I hope he gets out of there. I think the Indians got some good pitching, but this isn't an Indian podcast. This is a Mets podcast.
I guess bleeds blue and orange and get some blue and red in there as well. We'll go to Cunny before any more of that nonsense.
Let's see. One guy I'm looking forward to this year. I mean, I think every Mets fan across the nation is looking forward to watching Dom Smith. Dom Smith, he came onto the scene last year, especially with the DH rule last year. I mean, that was huge for him. He came on and he was basically the Mets' best hitter almost, right? I'd say behind Conforto, he was the Mets' best hitter. He hit, let's see, I have 42 RBIs right here in 50 games. That's pretty absurd. I'm excited to see what he could build on this year. With the DH being taken away, it's a little up in the air where he's going to play. You're going to see him in the outfield. We'll see how that goes. But he just brings that energy to the team, and he's just really fun to watch. I'm excited to see Dom hopefully strive this year.
Big clubhouse guy. Need him.
Yeah, definitely a big clubhouse guy. I love Dom too. What he brings with the bat is electric. He's a great hitter, especially with the power coming now. He has a great eye, just controls the bat very well. Playing left field, not really crazy about that, but like you said, no DH, so that's kind of where we are. So I'll just hop into my second guy that I think I'm excited to see this season. I think a lot rides on this dude. It's definitely not going to be happy words from Greg. I'll let him say a couple words about him after, but it's Brendan Nimmo. He'll be playing that center field role. I think a lot of the time, Pilar has already shown some mishaps in the outfield in spring training. He showed good things with the bat, but I feel like Nimmo, with his on-base stuff, on-base skills, he'll definitely be in that lineup more often than not. So I think he'll be a big piece. He needs to play well defensively in center field, because that's somewhere he's really struggled. So I really just want to see good things from him this year. I'm very excited about the bat. I have questions about the glove, but I feel like everybody else is in that same boat. So I'll let Greg say a couple words about it.
Well, I'm just not excited to see him bat leadoff every day. I mean, listen, he's not a bad ball player. He can be a quality guy for you. We just know he's not a center fielder. We're putting him at a spot where he's not set up for a lot of success. Listen, he's been working on it. Whatever. I'll ride with it because I believe and I love the Mets. So you know what? We'll go. But I think we needed a better option defensively in center. He's not, awful with the bat. I just think he'd be great in, a 9 role if we had the DH, but just towards the bottom. I'd prefer a guy like McNeil to be hitting leadoff every day. But the guy I'm really excited to see from, I think we alluded to it earlier. Again, another guy I'm just a big fan of is Pilar. And I'm not even saying it because of the hatred for Nimmo. I just think he's a guy who could put some pressure on him, and he's going to play a lot when there's lefties pitching. Nimmo's going to not be hitting leadoff. I'd like to think in those games. Maybe Pilar catches a start. Maybe he gets hot, and maybe he's better with the glove. I think he can. He's going to be my candidate Betty off the bench that I think is a sleeper for us this year.
Yeah, and then I'll take it from. I agree with CJ. I like Nimmo. I think if he gets on base at the rate that he can, I think the Mets lineup could be very effective with him batting leadoff. So I'm very excited to see how that works, because he's definitely in an important spot in that lineup. I think that's going to be key. And Pilar, yeah, that's a good free agency signing. But I'm also excited for, this is an obvious one, but Michael Conforto in his contract year. Because we've seen Conforto have good seasons, but now this is the season where if he puts up monster numbers, he's going to get that Springer deal, no doubt, maybe even a little bit more. So I think he might even turn it up a level this year. I think we might not have seen the best of Michael Conforto, and I feel like he might step up as maybe the best hitter in our lineup. I mean, next to Lindor. Lindor's incredible, but I think Conforto's going to have a huge year. I'm really excited to see what he could do.
Yeah, I mean, last year he was our best hitter in the lineup for pretty much the whole season. And if the Mets were relevant, maybe a playoff team, he would have been in the MVP conversation, in my opinion. Like he had that year. Yeah, it was 60 games, but it's a great sign going into this year. So I'm excited.
Yeah, Conforto definitely did have a great year. I'm excited for him as well, that contract year. Hopefully he does have a massive year. And I feel like he could put it all together, because in college he kind of was kind of that pure hitter, and that's kind of what he was when he first came up. Was hitting for some power, but really was just spraying the ball around. I feel like he got away from that a little bit in recent years, and then really put it all together last year. Like Greg said, had a great year, almost an MVP contention. If the Mets were better, he did with the average and the power. So hopefully he can do that for 162. He'd be a great part of the team. Obviously one of the best, my favorite Mets. But another guy that I don't know if I'm excited for, but he's definitely vital for the season. I guess I should be excited because he had a good year last year. Edwin Diaz, Sugar, he's hot and cold, man. That's what he is. That's what he does. But he's electric when he's on, and when he's off, he's terrible. So hopefully he'll be a big part of that bullpen. We need him to kind of nail it down. Luis Rojas has said that he's going to use him in the highest leverage situation, which I kind of like. I feel like that's the way baseball should be. Use your best reliever in the highest leverage spot. I think that's Lugo for us, but without Lugo, I think that Diaz should take that role, just the highest leverage spot, be it the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning. Then you can piece it together if he throws earlier. I think that Diaz will be vital to this team. If he doesn't throw well, then we're in trouble. So, Greggy, what do you think, and what about your next dude?
Listen, we said we were going 3, I think, so this will be my last guy, and I'm going to go, again, probably the most obvious one you can go. I'm excited for Jacob deGrom, man. We're looking at a guy who's looking for his 3rd Cy Young. We're looking at a guy that I think, if he keeps this up for Verlander type years could be going down as one of the best pitchers of all time. Like, he's got to be in that conversation because he's bringing on more hardware, I think, himself. His best years are still there. So Jacob deGrom's going to be cooking this year, and I'm excited for what he's got.
Yeah, and then I'll just cap us off with similar along the route that you took, CJ, with McWilliams. I'm going to go with Drew Smith. I think Drew Smith is a guy that we've seen around the team now for a couple of years, right? 2 years. And I like what I say. I mean, I think he could pitch, but he's never been able to put it together yet at the big league level. I think the Mets are really hoping for either a breakout season from McWilliams or Smith. I think one of those two have to step up in the Mets bullpen. So I'm excited to watch them compete for that job because I do think those two are going to compete for maybe the last spot in that bullpen. So hopefully whoever wins that, takes some garbage innings early on and runs with it. Hopefully, because we still need another reliever to step up for late in the game. We need someone to step up.
Yeah, 1 or 2 injuries to a vital guy there, we could definitely be in trouble. I mean, Betances, his velo has been up from what it was in previous years at this point, but he still looks pretty shaky. I mean, I don't expect anything from him. I think I have higher hopes for Familia, which is, if you were asking somebody who they had higher hopes for, that's kind of a bad position to put somebody in. But that's where we are right now, I guess, between a rock and a hard place. One of them really needs to hit. And I feel like one of us should have shined on one of them because if one of those guys don't hit, then we could be in trouble. But like Honey said, Smith or McWilliams, hopefully one of them step up. I think both of those dudes definitely have potential. If any of you guys want to add any last words about any of those dudes or anything like that.
No, man, I think you got it covered. I mean, I think the bullpen, hopefully, like we said, they step up. If they step up, we're going to have a good year in 2021, I think, man. I think us three are going to catch some games. It's going to be fun in the summer at Citi Field, which we haven't had, in a little bit in 2019, but that was in postseason baseball. Hopefully we could get back there.
Can't wait to get back to Citi. Get your vaccines, boys. We'll be there every week. We'll be walking around. What's that? Palafritas. I'll be getting that about the 4th inning every week. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely excited to go to some Mets games. I don't know if I'll be vaccinated, but I'll be in there with that's cotton swab up my nose, touching my brain. Don't worry about that. We'll be at some games. I know we went a little long in our first episode. We were just very excited to get out and talk about our Mets. Had a lot of thoughts, so we just wanted to get out there and let people know what we were really about. This will be the first episode. We want to shoot for 1 a week. So, yeah, we're just excited to get into it. This will be the first one. We'll lead into spring training with more breakdowns of the team, looking for our predictions of the year and stuff like that. So definitely stay tuned. And Connie and Greg and I, we're definitely excited to bring you guys more Mets content and hope for a great year from our New York Mets. LFGM.
LFGM.
Yeah, tune in. Let's go Mets.